What does it really mean to remember? Truly remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Is it just names carved on stone? Or can one person's dedication decades later actually breathe life back into a legacy that seems forgotten? Today we're doing a deep dive into a story that does exactly that. It spans time, crosses continents, and it's a powerful look at how one person's passion can ripple outwards. Our story today revolves around two key people, separated by generations, by geography, but whose paths converged in this really quite remarkable way. First, there's Samuel Hanan, a young man, barely 21, life cut short in World War II. He had ties to both the U.S. and Canada. His final resting place ended up being this quiet churchyard in the Netherlands. Seemed like the end of the story. But then there's Erwin Wilmink, living right there in the Netherlands. An ordinary guy, really, but with this incredible passion for history. And that passion leads him on this quest, you could almost say, to connect with this specific soldier, Samuel, years after the war.
Yeah, and our mission here in this deep dive is to really unpack that. How can one individual's dedication revive a forgotten story? How does it forge these connections across families, across time, across continents, things that might just, never have happened otherwise? And it really highlights the enduring power of remembrance. It's vital. The sources we're working with today are, well, they're quite unique, a mix of personal accounts, bits from memorials, official records. It gives us this really detailed, quite emotional picture of Samuel's life and Erwin's quest.
Okay, let's unpack this then. To really get this, we need to go back to the life of the young man at the center of it all, Samuel Hanan. His journey starts far from that Dutch churchyard. Samuel Hanan, he was born April 29th, 1922. Not in Europe, but in Los Angeles, California. Sunny L.A., son of Naman Moreno Hanan and Marie Calo Chebi Barlia.
Just those names alone, they sort of suggest a rich background, don't they? Naman Moreno Hanan, Marie Calo Chebi Barlia, possibly Sephardic Jewish roots, perhaps?
Yeah, giving his early life this blend of American upbringing and maybe older traditions. And then the world's changing. Global tensions are rising. He's barely 19. And he makes this huge decision. Instead of joining the U.S. military, he goes north, crosses the border into Canada, May 17, 1941. He enlists in the Royal Canadian Air Force, the RCAF, in Vancouver. He was a warrant officer class 2, 429 Squadron. I mean, think about that. A Californian choosing to join the Canadian forces to fight.
It really underscores how interconnected that conflict was, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that decision, joining the RCAF despite being born in the U.S., it says a lot about the shared cause of the Allies.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually that unusual. People did enlist in Allied forces for various reasons, solidarity, wanting to get into the fight earlier, maybe family connections. And he ended up in a bomber squadron, which, well, that was one of the most dangerous jobs you could possibly have in the war. These RCAF bomber command units, like his 429 Squadron, they flew these incredibly risky missions deep into enemy territory, facing fighters, facing intense ground fire, just relentless danger. And it was on one of those missions, one of those incredibly dangerous flights, that his life ended. Samuel Hanan died April 27, 1943. He was only 20 years old.
Just think about that.
Yeah. Killed just 2 days before his 21st birthday, that milestone birthday. Coming of age, independence, gone. His plane, a Wellington HE-382, crashed near Bonnebroek in the Netherlands.
Right, the Wellington, a British twin-engine bomber. It was a real workhorse for the RCAF, especially early on. Solid planes, but maybe a bit vulnerable on those long night flights compared to some later aircraft. Their speed, their ceiling.
And they were coming back from Duisburg, Germany.
Duisburg, yeah, a major industrial target, right in the Ruhr region. Factories, steel mills, transport links. Hugely important to the German war effort.
Which means it was heavily defended.
Exceptionally defended, making it an incredibly dangerous place to fly over, especially for Samuel's crew and others like them. And here's where it gets, well, fascinating from a historical perspective. You see how different accounts can emerge for the same event, and how later research, really digging into it, can refine what we thought we knew. So some initial reports, older sources, they say his plane was shot down by a night fighter, implying a dogfight.
An aerial battle.
Exactly. But more recent information, especially from research done there in the Netherlands, is quite specific. It says, neergeschoten door, Vlak, boven born in Nederland, niet door een nightvector.
Okay, wait. So neergeschoten door, Vlak. Shot down by Vlak. Not a night fighter. That's a huge difference, isn't it?
It is a crucial distinction.
It changes how we picture those last moments. Flak is German anti-aircraft fire, right? From the ground.
Precisely. Ground-based artillery, not another plane attacking them.
So why did these differences in accounts happen? And why is it important for us to note this?
Well, discrepancies like this are actually quite common in historical records, particularly from wartime. It's chaotic initial reports, often based on, well, fragmented information. Maybe quick accounts from survivors who bailed out in the dark, or ground observers who didn't have a clear view. But over time, you get more evidence, maybe recovered German reports, local civilian accounts from near the crash site, detailed analysis of the wreckage.
Right. Piecing it together.
Exactly. Historians can build a much more accurate picture, and shifting from night fighter to flak isn't just like a technical detail, it tells us more about the specific danger they faced. Flak wasn't a dogfight. It was this relentless barrage of shells from below, a deadly curtain they had to fly through.
Wow.
It paints a much more accurate and frankly terrifying picture of what Samuel and his crew likely experienced. And it really underlines why continuous research, cross-referencing sources is so important. History isn't always static, it gets refined.
So after the crash, Samuel Hanan was laid to rest. Bournebroek Roman Catholic churchyard in the Netherlands. And he's in a collective grave. Cowan Grave 46 specifically.
Yeah, that collective grave detail is poignant. It often means several crew members were buried together, or perhaps their remains were gathered after the crash and interred as a group. It speaks to that shared fate of air crews and the practicalities of wartime burials. And the grave marker itself tells another part of the story. There's a really prominent feature on it.
Star of David.
Exactly. A large, unmistakable Star of David, clearly indicating his Jewish heritage. And this is backed up by his commemoration in the Canadian Jews in World War II memorial book.
That's so important. It personalizes him, but also connects him to a specific community within the Allied forces.
Absolutely. Jewish service members faced unique dangers, fighting not just for their countries, but against the specific horrors of the Nazi regime. That Star of David is a quiet but incredibly powerful symbol of his identity and his sacrifice.
And his memory isn't just kept alive in that churchyard. He's also remembered elsewhere. He's commemorated on the Bomber Command Memorial Wall in Nanton, Alberta, that huge memorial in Canada.
A massive tribute to bomber crews from Canada and the Commonwealth. Thousands of names.
And his name is also on page 167 of the Second World War Book of Remembrance. That's the official record kept in the Peace Tower on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. National record. And all these different forms of remembrance, the local grave, the national memorials, the books they show, the different ways we try to ensure these sacrifices aren't forgotten. You have organizations like American War Memorials Overseas, Inc., doing amazing work documenting sites abroad, even for Americans like Samuel, who serves with allies.
Right.
And the Canadian Virtual War Memorial Online, making these stories accessible globally. It's this ongoing effort, physical and digital, to keep the connection alive between the past and the present. It really is a multi-layered effort. Needs dedication on so many levels. Which brings us perfectly to the second person in our story, Erwin Wilming. His personal journey connects with Samuel's legacy in this really unexpected, deeply profound way. So Erwin Wilming, he's 54, lives in Born, Netherlands, which is, importantly, very close to Bournebroek, where Samuel's plane went down. He had this long-standing interest in U.S. military history, WW1, WW2, collecting things, learning stories. But apparently, something shifted for him around 2016. It sort of turbocharged his interest into something much more active, more personal.
Yeah, he specifically mentioned, and we're just reporting his words here, that his passion got a boost after the 2016 U.S. election and, as he put it, how Donald Trump spoke about the past and all casualties. Now, regardless of anyone's politics, this public discourse about history, about sacrifice, clearly struck a deep chord with Erwin. It wasn't about taking a side. It seems it spurred him towards a deeper, more personal engagement with that specific history, our shared history, meaning the Allies.
It's fascinating how big public events can spark such a personal drive, isn't it?
It really is. It shows how interconnected things can be.
And this new energy wasn't just theoretical. He started actively collecting more U.S. military memorabilia, tangible history. Things like actual U.S. medals, a 48-star American flag, the kind used during WWII.
Wow, a 48-star flag? That's quite a find.
And maybe most remarkably, a bomber jacket from a crashed B-17. These aren't just objects on a shelf for him. They're pieces of story.
Exactly. And what's really striking about Erwin is his commitment to connecting those objects back to the people. Take that B-17 jacket he bought in 2019. He knew it belonged to someone who'd survived, who'd bailed out. He was proof of a story of survival. So he spent 2 full years trying to find the relatives of the original owner.
2 years. That's incredible dedication.
It really is. Not just a quick Google search. This was serious detective work, navigating records, privacy, persistence, and he did it. He found the son of the Jewish man who owned the jacket and sent it to him. It goes way beyond collecting. It's about restoring that human connection, using an object as a bridge across time. It shows his deep belief in understanding the human element behind the history.
That story alone is amazing, and it perfectly sets the stage for his next step, grave adoption. Irwin actually said he didn't even know private citizens could adopt American war graves until early this year, 2024, which seems surprising given his interest.
Well, the context there is really important for understanding why. Most U.S. casualties from WWII in the Netherlands are buried at Margraten, the big American cemetery. And Margraten is unique. Every single one of its over 8,000 graves is adopted by Dutch citizens. Every single one.
Every single one.
Yes, and there's a massive waiting list. People wait years, sometimes decades, for the chance to adopt a grave there.
That's incredible. It speaks volumes about the Dutch commitment to remembrance.
It absolutely does. Deep gratitude, a real desire to personally honor the liberators. So for Irwin, finding out there were other ways, other locations for adoption outside that specific Margraten context, that was the key discovery.
Okay, so Margraten wasn't really an option because of the wait list, so he contacted the Dutch War Grave Foundation. He was looking specifically for graves closer to his home and born. He wanted that local connection. He'd already adopted a B-17 crewman's grave, but it was quite far away, apparently right where the plane crashed. This was about finding something closer, more personal to his daily life.
Right. That desire for a local, tangible connection is key. Something he could visit regularly, really feel connected to in his own community. And this search, this specific focus, led him to that fateful discovery, the one that connects him directly to Samuel Hanan.
And this part of the story, it really does feel like something more than coincidence. It's quite astonishing. The foundation pointed him towards 6 Commonwealth graves nearby. He goes there, looking for that connection. And he said he immediately was focused on Samuel. 2 things caught his eye: a large Star of David on it and American.
Even though Samuel served with the Canadians, his U.S. birthplace was noted.
And this happens on April 28th, 2024. Then he does some quick research right there.
Right there, probably on his phone, and he realizes Samuel's birthday is the next day, April 29th. He said he couldn't believe his eyes.
The timing is just wow.
It gets even more layered. He found the grave on April 28th, exactly 81 years after Samuel was killed near there on April 27th, 1943.
81 years to the day after his death and the day before his birthday.
The synchronicity is pretty powerful. It felt to Irwin like more than chance, like he was meant to find this grave at this exact time.
You can see why it hit him so hard, that timing, that connection. It spurred him into action immediately. He went back the very next day, April 29th, Samuel's birthday, and placed flowers on the grave.
Yeah, not a formal thing, not an official duty, just a spontaneous personal act of remembrance. Driven by this instant connection he felt to this young American-born airman who died so far from home, bringing Samuel's story back into the light, just for himself initially.
It shows that immediate emotional bond, that sense of responsibility he felt. Just one person connecting with another across all that time. So naturally, after feeling that connection, Irwin wanted to make the adoption official, formalize it. But as often happens, he hit a snag: bureaucracy, existing arrangements.
Right. He contacted the foundation right away, said he wanted to adopt Samuel's grave, full of enthusiasm. But about a week later, they told him, sorry, not possible.
Why not?
Apparently, the local school had already adopted all 6 Commonwealth graves in that plot, including Samuel's, as a school project.
Oh, okay, so that sounds like a dead end. An institution already had it covered.
For most people, maybe. You'd think, okay, well, it's being taken care of.
But not Irwin. His persistence here is just central to the whole story. He wasn't giving up. He found out who was head of the school, sent her a message explaining his situation, his connection. He asked for the chance to adopt the grave as a citizen as well. He made his case, explained why it was so personal to him.
He really articulated that deep personal connection, didn't he? Beyond just a group project.
He did. And incredibly, the school head understood. She agreed. And within 2 weeks, Irwin had his official adoption certificate for Samuel Hanan's grave.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What's the unique role of an individual citizen in remembrance when there are already official efforts? Irwin's story highlights that deep personal commitment. School projects are fantastic, vital for education and community ties. But an individual like Irwin brings this singular, enduring focus. It's a different kind of care, maybe, a personal calling.
It shows remembrance isn't just institutional. It's driven by individuals, too.
Exactly. And that personal drive can sometimes navigate hurdles that institutions might struggle with. It's that heartfelt conviction.
And true to form, getting the certificate wasn't the end goal for Irwin. It was the start of his act of remembrance. He's visited Samuel's grave regularly since late April, 5 or 6 times, he said, always bringing fresh flowers, spending quiet time there.
Consistent effort.
He made sure to be there on May 4th, which is the Dutch National Remembrance Day for WWII Fallen, a very solemn day there. And he also went on Memorial Day, the American Day of Remembrance, acknowledging Samuel's U.S. roots too.
Those intentional visits, choosing those specific dates, show a really active, living commitment, keeping the memory present. And he took it another step further. He knew true remembrance meant connecting the past to the present, connecting with the living. So he started what he called a heavy search to find Samuel's relatives.
That sounds intense, genealogical research trying to trace a family decades later.
It takes serious work. Records can be sparse, names change, families move, you need persistence, detective skills, maybe a bit of luck.
And again, his persistence paid off. He found Samuel's niece, and her reaction tells you everything. She was enormously surprised when he contacted her.
Imagine getting that call out of the blue.
Exactly. All she'd known really was the basic fact. Her uncle Samuel, her mother's brother, was killed in the war. The details, where he was buried, the full story. It had faded. Lost to time, maybe the family's grief.
That silence that can fall after trauma.
Right. So Irwin's contact was like this sudden illumination after decades.
And this is where Irwin's work becomes truly transformative. It literally changes a family's understanding of its own history. Samuel Hanan, gone for 80 years, suddenly becomes this active, present figure in the family narrative again. The niece, who only had this vague sense of loss, now has the full story. The details of his service, his sacrifice, where he rests.
And she's enormously proud of him.
Of course. It's this incredible gift Irwin gave them, reconnecting them to their own past, providing understanding, pride, maybe even a sense of closure or healing. It shows how one person can mend those historical threads for a whole family.
So let's talk about the ripple effect here. Irwin's dedication didn't just bring information, it actually changed how the family remembers, physically. Samuel had a younger sister, Susanna Hanan. She passed away back in 2016. But recently, after the niece heard the full story of Samuel from Irwin, his research, his passion, she was moved to do something quite remarkable.
What did she do?
She had the text on her own mother's gravestone, Susanna Hanan's gravestone, adjusted, changed specifically to match the text on Samuel's gravestone in the Netherlands.
Wow.
Yeah.
To match your brother's epitaph.
Exactly, linking them together in death through those shared word of remembrance years after they both passed.
That is incredibly powerful. That subtle act, changing the words on a gravestone, it speaks volumes. It's about the power of that personal story Irwin uncovered and shared, how it traveled through time, reshaped the family's memory. It's not just stone and letters, it's a symbolic reunion, a testament to that sibling bond, transcending death.
It's remembrance made tangible.
Absolutely. Fueled by Irwin's effort to make sure Samuel's sacrifice was fully understood and honored within his family. It's a physical mark of that shift, creating this new shared memorial narrative for them.
What an incredible story we've followed today. From Samuel Hanan, born in L.A., enlisting in Canada, resting in the Netherlands, we saw the details of his final mission, the nuances of historical truth. Then Irwin Wilmink, his personal passion sparked, leading him on this almost fated journey of remembrance.
Yeah, from collecting artifacts to finding that specific grave against the odds.
And then connecting with the family, bringing Samuel's story back into their lives in such a profound way.
I think this deep dive really highlights a few key things for all of us, First, never underestimate the power of individual initiative in keeping history alive. Irwin wasn't some big institution, just one person with deep commitment. Second, those seemingly small acts, the research, the persistence, reaching out, they can have huge ripple effects across time and continents, mending gaps and enriching memory.
Totally agree. And third, it shows how vital it is to look for the personal stories inside the big historical events. War can seem abstract dates, battles, but Samuel's life, Irwin's connection, that makes the human impact real, emotional. It reminds you every statistic was a person, a family. Exactly. And finally, it just reaffirms that deep human need we have to connect with the past, to honor sacrifice, and to make sure these stories don't fade away. So as we finish up today, here's something maybe for you to think about. What stories might be hidden in your own family's past or your local community's history, waiting for someone to rediscover them? How could one person's curiosity, maybe like Irwin Wilmink's, turn a forgotten past into something living and meaningful for others today?
It really shows the power rests with us, doesn't it? Those who choose to look closer and to care.